This is Horror Movie Production at Moor Studios, The Secret Movie Studio, Part 4, History of Horror Movie Production, Other Movie Production, rewritten based on photographic evidence from the Moor Studios photos. And here's a way to get in to see the Moor Studios index and photos, and here's some contact information. This is a fair use statement. This is the photograph that got me started. I was able to identify from the Moor Studios photos this gentleman as Bela Lugosi, and virtually identified all of them. And this is the big problem here. It's Mr. Ed Woods, and these two should not be in the same photograph at this time with Dr. Frankenstein, Colin Clive, Peter Cushing, and a bunch of other very interesting people. And also at the Moor Studios, I found Boris Karloff, who's a man named Alex Oxley. I question whether that's his real name. But anyway, here's Todd Browning standing not quite next to him. And here is a man named Ted Percivals, who's Jack Parsons, who shouldn't be in this photograph at all because he is a rocket scientist. And where I left off last time, I promised to go through the slide, but sadly I'm not. I identified this woman as Betty Davis, who's called Jean Woods here. And I have identified these two people, but this is a very complex, more complex slide than you might realize, and it deserves its own story, and it will not fit in with the horror films here. So we're going to move on. Okay, this is a fancy dress ball at Moor Studios, and can you identify someone here from the horror films? And the answer is, of course, you can. This gentleman right here, if anyone's paying attention, he has a sort of a peculiar look about him with a big jutting jaw and elongated face and some very strong features. And this gentleman here is Rondo Hatton. Now, Rondo Hatton was a terrific actor who showed up in over 30 films. He's probably best known for House of Horrors here. Here's a scene from House of Horrors. He had, again, very strong features, this kind of peculiar elongated face and a strong jaw, and just a terrific looking character on the screen. He played in the Ugly Man contest in Hunchback of Notre Dame with Charles Lawton. He was in a Sherlock Holmes film. He played 3 films as the Creeper. And here's another film of his. This was his last film from 1946 called The Brute Man. And he's a towering new terror, no woman safe from his crushing arms. And here, he's strangling this gentleman over here, and he's an impressive figure. Notice the bulging brow. It's terrific, man. And he's a very beloved character in horror films. They have even named an award, the Rondo Hatton Classic Horror Award, and it honors the best in classic horror research, creativity, and film preservation. And this is from House of Horrors, and this is a statue made by this sculptor. And here, the statue from the Rondo Hatton Classic Horror Awards is actually a miniature of the statue. Just briefly, the artist saves Rondo Harris, the character, the Creeper, from drowning, brings him back, and he's sort of depressed, but he makes this great statue of the Creeper, Rondo Hatton. And the critics don't like the statue, so the artist decides to send the Creeper, Rondo, to go kill the critics. But a terrific story, a very impressive figure, a great character, and really beloved. But he did suffer from a condition known as acromegaly. And what is acromegaly? Acromegaly is a disease of the pituitary gland where the pituitary gland secretes too much growth hormone. Usually it's some form of tumor. And if you have too much growth hormone as you're growing, before the growth plates close, you'll be very tall. And there's some basketball stars who've had it. But if you have too much pituitary hormone, growth hormone, after your growth plates close, what happens is that you get a lot of tissue laid down on the face, hands, and feet. Here you can see the brow gets tremendous thickening, and the jaw gets very broad. That's laying down more bone. And this gentleman here, who's unidentified, as he was in most of his films, has the same kind of look as somebody with acromegaly does. And Rondo Hatton is known for having acromegaly. Now, these two gentlemen are the same. You can see the same look about them, the same jutting jaw. His mouth is open here in the same way, the same look about him. It is the same man, and I will go about showing that to you. So at first I thought this was this picture was somewhere in between the age of this picture and this picture, and it's a progression I thought of acromegaly. Turns out it's not. Here's a picture of Rondo Hatton, probably from a yearbook, either high school or college. And here's the discovered photo of the man I believe is Rondo Hatton because of the similar look and the acromegaly. But the dates are wrong for this. So this photograph here is from 1918. This one's from 1945. We know it's the same man because of the handwriting is the same. You can see the line across the T. This is identical signatures. This photo is from 1946. And this photo here is from 1948. This is from 1948. So we look and trying to show what the problem is and try and figure this out. So there's another photograph where Rondo shows up, and I slipped and showed it to you, but here's Rondo Hatton over here. How do we know that's him? Well, here's the photograph where I identified him, and it's in the same sequence of photos from the Moor studios. This one identifies some of the people in it, but not all of them, and it's the fancy dress ball at Moor studios. And here's the gentleman I identified as Rondo Hatton. And here he has the same kind of silly hat, but it's probably turned around, and the same eyebrows, the same glasses. Here he has a mustache on. Here, where's the mustache? He's not wearing it. Oh, here it is. It's in his hand. Why is that mustache in his hand? If you take a look, they're drinking beer, and he has apparently chugged his beer in about 2 seconds, so he took the mustache off in order to chug the beer. This man has not even barely started his beer, but he enjoyed that right down. But they give you the date on this photo, and it's the same, would be the same as this one, which is 1948. And again, that's a problem because here's the photo in 1945. Here's Rondo Hatton in 1946, the year of his death. And here he is, I've identified him in 1948. It is a problem, what's going on here. Okay. Well, what we have is some movie magic, and we're going to show the movie magic here. So here's that photograph I showed you earlier, Bela Lugosi, Ed Wood, and right under Dr. Frankenstein and next to Peter Cushing is a gentleman who I've identified in a previous video, and this is Jack P. Pierce. Jack P. Pierce is the great makeup artist, and he did the makeup for not Dr. Frankenstein, Frankenstein's monster, so this would be Boris Karloff. And I demonstrated earlier that this is played by a man named Alex Oxley. Alex Oxley was an illustrator, whether that's his real name or not, and here he's doing some illustrations. Great picture of Jack Pierce, and it's probably a staged photo, but it's terrific. Boris Karloff and Jack Pierce doing makeup. And here's another one. Oh, go back for a second. And again, you know, Frankenstein's monster does not look in a lot of ways like this gentleman here. The basic features are the same, but they've added this whole high brow here, and the head is flat, and you know, the hair is different. So it's makeup, it's magic. And here's, oops, how did I jump to that? Here's Lon Chaney Jr., who played the Wolfman. Again, another staged photo, great shot of Jack P. Pierce with the Wolfman, teasing his hair. and it's beautiful. And Lon Chaney, but Lon Chaney does not look like this. By the way, here's a very early photo of Lon Chaney Jr. that I found, and we'll do another presentation. This is previously undiscovered. But it's movie magic, and you can get some of the basic characteristics underneath the makeup, but not, it certainly does not look like this man. So you also have, they frankly don't tell you the whole story about these actors. They make it up, they make them to be larger than life. They are larger than life, but the information is not quite correct. So here I've identified Ralph Wright as Bela Lugosi, who plays Count Dracula. And Bela Lugosi dies in 1956, and he's a morphine addict, and he has a relationship with Ed Wood. But this is Ralph Wright here. He's an illustrator, won an Academy Award for Winnie the Pooh. He did the voice of Eeyore. He doesn't die till 1968, and this is the same man. And I'm going to go into it a lot further because, again, these two are not supposed to be together in the same photo here in the next photograph. But he should not be alive here in 1968. He should have passed away. But they create this character, Bela Lugosi, who plays Dracula, but the man is Ralph Wright, if that's in fact his real name. So what do we have? Well, this is Rondo Hatton with prosthetics and makeup on his face, and they have exaggerated the features here. You see him without all the prosthetics and the devices on his face, still with the look of the acromegaly, the jutting jaw. And this is 1948. It's 2 years after the supposed death of Rondo Hatton. Here he is in the Brute Man, but this is Rondo Hatton without his makeup. And again, to do a double check, I'll explain it once more. This was Alex Oxley, who I identified as playing Frankenstein's monster. And again, they add prosthetics. He's a very, very fit man. He's strong. He's powerful. Here they have added this giant brow and given him sort of a flat head look, and they give him giant shoulders. He's none of that. He is slim. He's beautiful. There's some great pictures of him. And going back here, you take a look. They've made him more grotesque here with the giant shoulders and the padding and making everything exaggerated. And he is none of this. He's trim, he's fit, he's strong. So again, they have exaggerated his characteristics here. This is the same man as this one, just as this Alex Oxley is Frankenstein's monster. And again, what you have here is a beautiful picture of Rondo Hatton without his makeup and appliances on his face, and it is 2 years after his reported death. All right, thank you for watching, and take care, everybody.